Working from home has in many cases become the new normal. And as more and more people and businesses are seeing increases in happiness and productivity and performance and cost savings and a whole bunch of other benefits, well, this whole work from home trend thing doesn't seem to be going anywhere anytime soon. And maybe not ever. Which is why in this video, I want to take you behind the scenes a little bit and show you what my work from home office setup really looks like. Because for the past 10 years or so, running a digital marketing agency and a business consulting firm, well, I've largely been working from home and slowly but surely working to make my home office setup more productive, more effective, more efficient when I'm doing my work, and just a whole lot more fun and enjoyable. But before we get into the specifics and all of the details behind my setup, I think first it's important to cover why you would want to spend the time and the money and the energy setting up a really solid home workstation in the first place. I mean, sure, it's nice to have, it looks good, it's fun to come to work, but there's got to be something more to that. There's got to be some real tangible results-oriented outcomes. There's got to be a way that it's actually leading to more productivity and increased profitability as well for your business or the business you're working for. Fortunately, I've got some good news there. As this article from Science Direct says, temperature, air quality, lighting, and noise conditions in the office affect the work concentration and productivity. Numerous studies have consistently demonstrated that characteristics of the physical office environment can have a significant effect on behavior, perception, and productivity of employees. And there are countless other articles out there that all pretty much say the exact same thing. Essentially, your work environment matters, and it matters a whole lot. Now, of course, when it comes to setting yourself up for success, there's a whole lot of different considerations, as well as a few things that you really need to make sure to avoid. These are kind of the big culprits, and the main ones seem to be around temperature and around noise and around distractions. Alexa, turn off light. Oh yeah, and lighting's important too. Alexa, turn on light. So I've lumped those things into a category that I call climate, and along with 4 other areas of setting up the perfect home office, well, this has really enabled me to set up an incredibly productive and efficient workstation. So I've lumped those together into a category called climate, and along with 4 other items, including capture, create, company, and creativity, well, they've helped me create a home office setup that allows me to get more done in a single day than I used to in an entire week. Not only that, but I find that keeping these criteria top of mind, well, they enable me to go and be productive pretty much anywhere that I happen to be, whether I'm on vacation or working at a friend or family member's house. And these same criteria I advise for pretty much all of my clients and students to help set themselves up for maximum success. This is because almost regardless of what kind of work you do or market you're in or industry in, you're going to work better. You're going to get more done if you're comfortable. You're going to need some way to take notes and capture information. You probably need to create something, which could be as simple as an email to something a little more complex like a video or a podcast or a blog post. There are going to be basic business and company things that you need to take care of, like basic administrative tasks. And of course, we all work better when we're surrounded by things that inspire us and spark creativity and bring us joy and just basically make us happier. So let me take you through all of them now, starting with a real quick highlight of climate. So the very first thing I've done, and probably one of the most important elements of setting up my own workstation, is really making sure that I've got the climate dialed in, which is the overall environment. So this means proper lighting so I can see things. It means access to windows, ideally for natural daylight. It means making sure there's not too much noise or there's not too many distractions, and I'll share a bit of a tip there in a minute, as well as making sure that the room is at the right temperature, which sounds kind of really, what's the word I'm looking for? Soft, maybe? Wimpy, kinda? I mean, really makes me feel like I'm kind of a prima donna, but the reality is that if I'm freezing or sweating to death in the summer, I simply can't focus, I can't concentrate, and I can't get work done, which is why investing in proper air control and a fan or an air conditioner or a heater in the winter, well, they've been some of the best investments that I've ever made in the office. Now, as for noise, well, there's certain things you can do, of course, like closing windows, making sure your office is in the good part of the home or you're away from the main living area, but there's another trick that I use on a pretty much daily basis, which is simply to use noise-canceling headphones. In this case, just a simple pair of Apple AirPods will do, but feel free to use pretty much any kind of noise-canceling headset out there. The benefit of the AirPods is if you really are in a noisy place, well, you can put these in your ears and then you could actually wear headphones over if you don't mind looking a little crazy. These basic things go a long way, but so does making sure that you're in comfortable clothing, you've got access to water and a restroom or whatever it is to make sure that you're comfortable and you're not going to be interrupted during your day. See, the benefit of working from home is that it's your home, it's your life, it's your opportunity to really set up your own workspace that's going to be best designed for you and your unique needs. You can design it how you like, you can lay things out how you like, you can set the temperature how you like, so make sure that you're taking full control of these opportunities. All right, now let's move on to the next section, which is a little more visual. And this is the capture and create aspect of my workstation and of my workday. This is where I do the bulk of my work and where I spend most of my time. Now, in my experience, I've found one of the most effective and most productive ways to get more done faster is to make sure that I have everything that I need right at my fingertips. So immediately available so I can just sit down and get to work right away. Now, what this used to mean is having everything splayed out across my desk, piles of paper over there and laptops and iPads over there and pens over there and all kinds of speakers and microphones, and it was just a complete disaster. And that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is making sure that everything is available, but in a clean and organized and incredibly effective way that allows me to get exactly what I need without getting lost in the clutter, without getting distracted in the clutter. Hey, a sandwich. So my very first goal was to make sure that I set up my primary workstation in a way that was not only clean and organized, but also incredibly professional and inspiring, something that really made me feel proud to go to work at. Well, my search for the ultimate workstation and ultimate desk setup led me to a company called GroveMade and their desk shelf system, which is hard to say, but incredibly cool. In fact, of all of the things that I've done to upgrade the look and the feel and the overall presentation and professionalism of my home office, this has probably had the biggest impact and the one that I get the most compliments on whenever somebody comes over. Not only are all of the GroveMade products some of the nicest looking things that I've ever brought into my office, but they're also an incredibly cool company, which is just a nice benefit. After all, we all like doing business with nice people. So I'll make sure to put a link to GroveMade in the description box below this video for you to check them out, as well as to link up all of the other products and services that I'm going to mention throughout this video. So long story short, the first thing that I picked up was a GroveMade solid walnut desk shelf. Then I got a desk tray to help keep everything organized, a desk pad because it looks good and feels good too. I got an iPad stand, which has probably been, again, one of the most useful products that I've got just for how often that I use and reference my iPad throughout the day, and now it's always right there and always fully charged. And I picked up a leather and wood keyboard wrist pad, which admittedly, I had no idea just how much I was going to grow to love this thing. I mean, seriously, for just how simple it is so incredibly valuable, and it makes my typing just that much more enjoyable and that much faster too, which again means I'm more productive. Basically, by incorporating these GroveMade products into my overall workstation, it immediately elevated my entire setup, and through some, I don't know what you would call it, psychological boost, creative inspiration, enclothed cognition, whatever the case, I just ended up working better. But I wasn't done yet because I still needed to set myself up with more tools to both capture and create, as well as take care of all of the company aspects of running a business and make sure that I was always inspired and full of different creative ideas. This is why the next thing that I added to my overall workstation was a high quality microphone. For anybody that is working from home and subject to those onslaught of never-ending Zoom meetings, this is an incredibly valuable way to immediately up-level your overall professionalism in the way that people perceive you, because audio is just so incredibly important and it makes the overall experience for your meeting attendees or the people that you're speaking with on the other end, just makes it so much better for them. Now, the microphone I went with was a Shure SM7B, which admittedly is a little more of an expensive mic, but I do a whole lot of videos and interviews, so in my case it made sense. The problem with this microphone, however, is that you can't just plug it into your computer, so you also need an interface, in which case I went with a Focusrite Scarlett, as well as a way to power the microphone, so I used a cloud lifter. Now, the price is starting to add up here, so you don't need to go with this route. However, there is another option known as the Blue Yeti, which is still a very good microphone and one I used for years before getting this set up. Now, on the topic of video, the camera that I use for pretty much 90% of all of my videos, and often when I'm doing live streams or meetings as well, is the camera that you're looking at right now, which is the Sony a6400. Of all of the cameras that I've used over the years, this is still by far my absolute favorite camera, and it beats the pants off many that are triple, if not 5 times more expensive. Of course, a key part of making sure that you've got quality video is also the lens, and the lens that you're looking at right now is the Sigma 16mm. Another key element of the overall setup is making sure that you've got appropriate and sufficient lighting, in which case, what I've got lighting me right here is a Godox light with a softbox on it. I've also got another one over there and another one over there, so they're valuable tools to have depending on where I am in the office. Now, of course, the bulk of my work, if not all of my work, is done on a computer, in which case I'm typically using an iMac Pro, but I've also got a MacBook Pro that works just fine. Even then, if I wasn't doing any kind of video editing or anything like that, I could probably get by on pretty much any basic computer. Speaking of video editing, my video editing program of choice is Final Cut Pro 10, but I've also used Premiere Pro, either of which is fine. A big thing, however, that's way too often overlooked when it comes to producing high quality videos is making sure that the audio is really dialed in. And this is why I thought it was worth investing in studio monitors. The ones I went with were the Yamaha HS8s, but again, there's a ton of other ones out there that can do, and some quite a bit cheaper, including the Rockets, which will do just fine. Now, the difference between a studio monitor and a regular kind of home office speaker is that a studio monitor doesn't hide or disguise any imperfections in the audio. So what you hear is very much what it's like, and it's not doing anything to try to make it sound better. Now, on the surface, that sounds like a terrible idea. Why would you want speakers that don't make your audio sound better? But the reality is you want to hear exactly how it is so you can mix and master it and get it to sound as clear as possible. That way, someone that's listening to it through either a TV or an iPad or on their phone or small speakers or big speakers or whatever the case, they're going to get the most accurate and the best experience for them. Now, when it comes to the different apps and the different pieces of software that I use on my computer and on my iPad and on my iPhone, there's a few that I go to time and time again. In order to capture, the ones that I just seem to keep coming back to are Notion, Instapaper, my Kindle, as well as an app called Readwise, which allows me to export the notes that I take from the Kindle, and of course, my good old trusty friend Audible, which allows me to listen to audiobooks, and I typically crank those puppies up to 2 or sometimes 2.5 times speed. When it comes to the create part of my day, well, like I've already mentioned, I use Final Cut Pro for any video editing. I tend to use Photoshop for any kind of images or thumbnails or graphics or things like that. And of course, when it comes to actually writing content down, well, there's probably no better tool than Google Docs itself, which is free and powerful. All of that said, I once heard that Richard Branson said that the single most valuable thing that he ever keeps with him is a pen and a paper. So that's why I love this thing. Now, my notebook of choice is this thing called a Leuchtturm? I don't know. And these super fancy Micron O2 pens, which, man, they make me sound like such a hipster. But the reality is they've got something called archival ink, which means that it's going to last a long time. It doesn't smudge, it doesn't smear, and it's just a nice fine tip, which helps me write a little bit cleaner, because I got messy writing. Now that that's covered, next, I've got a super quick highlight on the company stuff, because it's kind of boring, but also incredibly important. So when it comes to the apps that I use for running the administrative stuff for the company, well, it's pretty basic. It's Notion to run most of our project management, Slack to communicate with the team, and email to communicate with pretty much everybody else. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Okay, now let's talk the creativity stuff. Here's the deal. One of the best parts of working from home, no matter what kind of work you're doing, is the control that you have over your work environment, over your workspace, over sort of filling it up with the things that spark creativity, bring you joy, make you happy, and make you more productive. So again, you want to use that to your full advantage. We've already discussed the various different studies out there that have proven time and time again how your work environment, how your workspace has a direct impact on your level of productivity and your level of happiness. So it simply doesn't make sense to ignore this. Find things that motivate you, find things that you enjoy, find things that you think are beautiful or interesting or whatever the case, and make sure that they're all around you. Not in like a messy hoarding kind of way, but in a nice, organized, creative kind of way. For example, here in the office, I have drums, I have guitars, I have cameras, and I have books. Lots of books. I've also got plants. I've got pictures of family. And I've even got some random things like a pair of nunchucks and a bow staff, which, fun fact, should never be practiced indoors. Setting up my workspace this way, having these things around me, essentially guarantees that I'm never going to run out of ideas or motivation or inspiration. Of course, the one thing that can have the greatest impact on your overall work and your overall business and career and professional success is making sure that you're focusing your time and attention on the most important things. And when it comes to business, when it comes to professional success, there is no more important thing than marketing. And this is why the very next thing you're going to want to do is check out the video I've got linked up right here on the top marketing strategies to help get more attention. So make sure to check that out now, and I'll see you in the video. Sent to the magazine, it's got to get published and then distributed. Well, you could be looking at weeks, at best months, and maybe many, many months before you ever figure out if this works.